What is wealth? Throughout the series we'll be running a brief segment on what is wealth. It compares Fred and John's financial affairs to help us see if we can determine what an accurate definition of wealth might be. I think you might be surprised. Fred uses his money wisely. He owns an investment property worth $380,000. Fred says, it's nothing too flashy, but it's always been rented since its purchase. He has only had 3 tenants, and the biggest gap between tenants was only 10 days. It's on the same side of the city as Fred's home, about 10k from the city centre. Whilst it's on the wrong side of the city, the suburb is quite highly regarded, and it's shown quite strong capital growth. John's investment property is in a dress circle suburb, also about 10 kilometres away from the city, on the absolute right side of town. The suburb has shown really strong capital growth. The property is not rented, but leased. Because of its location, John has been able to lease it to visiting foreign executives. Even though the return is not too much better, John thinks that the property is much better looked after. John is happy to wait a little for the right leasee, so realistically the slightly higher return has been diluted by periods of unoccupancy. But it's a formula that John's happy with. Welcome back. We're doing the reverse interview now. You should all know what that's about. We're asking somebody to help us review the programme so far and pick up points that maybe required a bit more clarification. Helping us with that today is Nina Eason. Nina, thank you for joining us.
Hi Kerry, how are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Nina, you run a small business, Mail House Direct. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We help businesses solve their bulk mail distribution problems.
Oh, that sounds really good. If you're a business with bulk mail distribution problems, Nina is the person to speak to. Nina, now what do we need to clarify?
I think I would like to know, if someone's in debt, what do they do? What can they do?
The first point I think about somebody who is in debt is they should recognise it. So clearly using credit cards until they die isn't the best way to go with life. So learning to recognise the signs is the first thing.
So do you have like a checklist that people can use to recognise signs?
I guess, yeah, checklists are a thing. We don't actually have a checklist on the website available in that area. I think that we were given an example, if you remember before, about somebody who wasn't opening their mail because they looked like bills, and when they sought help there was just a pile of unopened mails. I guess that people who are in trouble know it and mostly try and avoid it. So recognition is the first thing. So once somebody recognises the problem, the next thing they need to do is probably need to go and seek some help.
And where would they seek help?
Well, there's all sorts of places where help can be sought. Financial advisors, of course, mortgage brokers, some of them specialise in that area. And of course, most of the councils have counselling services that can provide help with debt.
So Kerry, what about someone who may have a credit card debt, which is not a huge debt problem, but they're not comfortable with it? How would we manage that?
Often when credit card debt rises, people just keep getting more credit cards.
Okay.
So there's a special offer on, and you consolidate, get debt on one card, and then they haven't managed to pay it off, so there's a special offer again, and they consolidate debt on another card. So very frequently, I suppose it's a warning sign often, but somebody who's got more credit card debt than they need often has more credit cards than they need. So I guess the way out of it is to build a plan to help them out of that process.
Right, okay. And how would they build the plan? Who would they see? Who would help them?
Okay, they could do it themselves. Probably they're always better seeking some advice, but we're describing someone who's not in serious debt but just really would like to get it under control. And that control thing is, if they could do it by themselves and manage it by themselves, they've put themselves in control of debt, and that probably is the major issue. So what they would do is, there are programs, and I've got links on the website to programs that could help with this, but even without the programs, it's simply a matter of listing all the debt. On an earlier show we said that listing everything is very important. So you list all your credit cards, all the debt, when it's due by, if that's appropriate for that item of debt, and the interest rate that's charged. You've then got two choices, and we discussed those in the show, whether you pay the highest card off or the card with the lowest balance off first. But nevertheless, it's called a cascade. You allocate all the money that's due on the card. So if say you had 4 cards and you had to pay $400 a month, you'd allocate the $400 a month, find a bit more. So you might find an extra $50 or $100 a month, which would give you, say, $500 a month to service the cards. So you would focus on one card to pay off first, lowest balance or highest interest rate. You'd pay the minimum on all the other cards, and you'd focus all your efforts on getting that card eliminated. When that card was eliminated, cancel the card. Then all of that money now goes on to the next card. The minimum balance on the card you've just eliminated now adds to the money that cascades down to the next card, and you keep doing that until you're left with one card and debt in control.
Sounds great.
Sounds easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, sounds easy, but if you're in that situation, it must be terribly hard.
It is, yeah. The debt is insidious.
Kerry, tell us how debt is affected by what we buy.
Really, debt isn't affected. It's just, if you like, the quality of the debt. We've tried to label debt good and bad. Now, the asset you buy with money is the thing that determines often whether it's good or bad. So in the earlier spot we spoke about, buying a car with debt, paying more than you borrowed back because of interest charges, and the item you buy being worth much less than you borrowed. So in the example I think we used, we had a car at 30,000, 45,000 was paid back and the car was worth 15. So that asset was probably a bad one to borrow for, unless of course you absolutely needed a car, and often we do. Maybe a better financial choice might have been to buy a second-hand car with less debt, or maybe with a bit of cash, but everyone's circumstance is different. The good debt we isolated was debt, same debt maybe even, but for an asset that appreciated in value. So we'll keep the same, borrowing 30,000 to buy $30,000 worth of shares, paying back 45,000, but when the debt is paid back, if you're lucky, if the markets are kind to you, your assets you bought might be worth the same as the car 15 if the markets are down, but they might be worth 45 or 50 or 60,000 if the markets are up. If that was the case, that would have been good debt because you're leveraging debt to increase your wealth. Buying the car is actually deleveraging, so in fact you're reducing your wealth. Okay, look, Nina, thank you very, very much for helping us, and thank you for the cup of tea. I haven't sipped too much while we've been chatting, but I'm going to finish it off and enjoy it thoroughly. Thank you once again for joining us.
Well, thank you, Kerry.
Don't forget our competition. Please go to the website and sign up for our 100 Gold Challenge. Prizes are being generously awarded by AIA Australia, who are giving a free risk assessment away every week, and 2 iPads to be won throughout the series. And also Keith Abraham, who's donated his book about finding your passion. Go to the website wealthplan.tv. Thank you for joining us on Wealth Plan TV. I hope you enjoyed the show. Next week we'll be dealing with accumulation.